All right, welcome into Sunday Night Roundtable from Broadway Sports Media. Stepping in this week for Michael Gillum, I'm your host, Ryan Watson. Joining me this afternoon is James Esparza, Jonathan Bourne, and Justin Graver. Welcome in, boys. We just got done watching the Titans play, but as a reminder, you can find all of us, all of our content, and much, much more at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Go and get all that, get that all-access premium membership today. Like I said, we're going to get into the game here, go through some of the plays, but just right off the top, just looking at the stat lines, Titans did get 444 yards today. Great day. I mean, when you're looking at the yards, gave up 464. So let's get into the Titans get the ball first. I think that Jonathan made a comment during the game that the Titans have started out with the ball every single game so far this year. So they get the crack at scoring points and getting the game going first every game so far. And they've for the second week in a row, at least, they've hit a big play starting off with a big shot to Raymond for 44 yards off play action. And you love to see them taking those kind of shots early, trying to get the defense on their heels immediately. And you love what Art Smith is bringing to this. Justin, your thoughts real quick on that, seeing it 2 weeks in a row from the Titans.
Well, this team's clutch. What more can you say about that? I mean, Ryan Tannehill continues to lead game-winning drives when needed.
Yeah, Tannehill is clutch. He was clutch on the first play of the game. We'll get to the end of the game here later. So I definitely like that. So after a holding penalty on Batson, kind of kills momentum a little bit, goes to the 1st and 20. Nice 15.
Hold on. Because as the person that was leading the Batson, we'll say hype train, he was kind of a no-show today. I think part of that was as a member of what the game plan was. But at the same time, he wasn't apparent. And Khalif Raymond, who, if you listen to our podcast this week, I said was probably at a risk of being cut. I'm falling on the sword. Came through over 100 yards, making big plays. He's never going to be that volume guy that gets 10 catches in a game, but making those impact plays. The critical me would say, can we find a way to get in the end zone on some of those plays? If you're the speed guy, there are ways to make the catches that he made get into the end zone. That said, absolutely want to applaud kind of what Khalif Raymond has done today, giving him credit for getting into the game plan and making his plays where they actually were schemed for. So absolute credit for Khalif Raymond.
A great first play there from him. And then also after a nice 15-yard grab by Jonnu going to him early, and often really like to see that for Jonnu Smith, especially with A.J. Brown out for the second week there. Tannehill catches his own pass. Didn't do a touchdown with it like Mariota, but did catch his own pass off of a deflection, drive stalls. But Gostkowski hits his first field goal of the game from 39 yards. And I'm starting to quit clinching it a little bit every time he lines up a field goal. They're looking good. I said during the game, that's 2 in a row for him going back to last game that he absolutely just drilled and sent through the upright. So that's good to see there. Vikings start on their first drive. Simmons with a big sack during this drive, bull rushed over Drew Samaya and threw him 70 yards, it seemed, 5 yards back in the backfield, and was able into Cousins' lap and gets that sack. He just bullied him. He just straight threw him back there. And this was the first of many from Simmons this day. He had a fantastic game. I know that there were some plays he wasn't involved in, but he popped the all game. It was good to see him. So they get the stop, a rare stop on the day for the Titans defense early. Titans come out in second drive as well. Start to get the running game going a little bit. Back to the play action. Tanner rolls out, picks up the first down with his legs. Henry gets stuffed, so the running game's not quite there just yet. Tannehill misses a wide open Jonnu Smith on the sideline on a little late leak out wheel route that would have gone for a huge gain. Then there's a bad snap that Tannehill has to fall in for 20-yard loss, forcing a current punt. So you're starting off good from the Titans a little bit. You have a miscue there. It's just those little things like you hit Johnny for that pass, and you don't have to worry about the next play where the bad snap. And these kind of things keep happening with no preseason, no fan noise. You see these miscues. Titans last week with the series of jumping off sides, this week with a bad snap. But, of course, there's a bad snap later in the game for the Vikings. So it's just maybe these NFL players aren't used to this silence and the overall not having to deal with the crowd noise. They're kind of conditioned to it at this point.
Yeah, I think whenever you look at that Jonnu Smith the miss that you referenced there, it's one of those that you kind of saw some miscommunication between Tannehill and Smith because it seemed to be cover two where that safety was coming over the top. Jonnu seems to kind of slow down and throw that hand up to get that reception rather than running through it.
Sure.
And so Tannehill seemed to more lead him rather than throwing into the zone, the gap in the zone. So when you have that cover two look, that corner is going to sit. Jonnu Smith beats the corner who is sitting on those flat routes, anything that's going to be short with that safety over the top. So the gap in cover two is going to be right where Jonnu Smith started to sit it down. So a lot of the issues that we saw right there was because of it looked like miscommunication on how to read that play. Because of where the safety was at, I don't know where to exactly place blame on that because Tannehill probably saw the safety was slow reading and getting over the top on that on cover two. So if he leads him, that gives Jonnu Smith a chance to actually run with the football rather than just catching it. So that's one of those that it's just kind of chalked it up. And so I would say with Jonnu, run through it, but at the same time, it's just unfortunate events caused that situation.
Yes, the Vikings take over 7:37 left after the current punt. Big play here. Jonathan Joseph, with one of his first nice plays of the game, takes on a low block, causes a pile that Dalvin Cook dives into and loses the ball against his own man. Fumble recovery for the Titans. Evans runs off with wet cement still on his shoes. It just looked awkward getting away, getting down the field. But big play for Jonathan Joseph coming up and making that on a day that you didn't have a whole lot of big plays, so that was good there. So Titans take over after the big fumble, big momentum change. That's two stops in a row for the Titans defense. Kind of starting to think maybe things are coming together all around for this team. Titans take over, but nice gain to start, incomplete pass, two incompletes in a row, and then a Gostkowski field goal attempt, good for 30 yards. But they missed Jonnu close to the end zone. They missed Humphreys in the end zone. James, at some point in time, the field goals are nice. It's good to see Gostkowski hitting these field goals. It came up huge this game. But you'd like to see the Titans score, convert that for a touchdown, especially after a big turnover like that.
Yeah, and I mean, going into half, it felt like we were down 30 points, even though we were down like 4 or 5 at the time.
And so leading into that is the not converting the touchdowns on that one. And then Vikings take over 5:55 left in the game. Landry, we've been talking about his pass rush, what he's done in the run. Really nice play on this drive on forcing a incomplete pass to Rudolph in coverage. So it's good to see that kind of stuff there. The first Vikings start to get Van Jefferson going, which becomes a running theme in this game. Titans get gashed to the right of defense by Dalvin Cook for a longest run of the season for the Vikings, a 39-yard touchdown run. And we said this during the game too. You hate it when the team you're covering is the one to do that gets the first against them by the other team. Longest run, Dalvin Cook today with his career long and yardage. Just you hate to see that as someone with the Titans for sure. So they get gashed there. Titans take back over. Nice catch up by Raymond to start. So it's nice to see Raymond getting back involved in that. Darrington Evans gets his first rush in the NFL. And JG, that has to make you happy to see a guy come out at this point in the season and be able to give. And I said, nice to give Henry a break there.
Yeah, it's nice to see Evans get on the field. They lined him up wide out, I think, before they gave him his first carry, and then on the next play, they actually handed him off the ball. That was nice, but it was cool that he was in on a play later. I think it was maybe a 3rd and short, and they used Evans with play action, and Tannehill kind of rolled out the other way and hit a short pass to get the first down. That you would think like, oh, this is where Henry comes in the game, but there's Evans out there and perfectly fine as the decoy there. The defense obviously is still going to fall for play action no matter who's back there. So good to see Evans get out there, but I thought he could have maybe carried a little bit more. Maybe they're easing him in with the recent hamstring injury and obviously never playing in the NFL before. So
it is nice to see them line him up in multiple positions and try to get him out wide. So and hopefully they use some of that versatility. Right there. But real quick, my big play of the game, one of the big plays for me early on was Evans runs it again for giving Henry a break for a short gain. But Lawan injured on the play. Goes down. I never saw an official word other than shoulder. We were guessing collarbone. I was just wanting to see his legs move, so I was glad to see that happen. Looked up, shook his leg a little bit. I was hopeful for a stinger. Haven't heard anything unless anybody's seen anything more updated than what I saw during the game. Justin shaking his head no, so we'll just move on from that. So Ty Sambriello comes in as the backup, and he had some struggles throughout. So you always want to have your starting tackle in. But the way Tannehill's been playing so far, JB, you made a point that during the halftime show that this doesn't worry you as much as it would in years past. But Severio did give up some plays later on. So hopefully Lawan comes back and is not out for extended time. We'll have more on that later on from Broadway.
Yeah, and real quick, just kind of looking at the comments, Moose from Periscope, I see there. I mean, as far as the defensive coordinator, that's definitely something we're about to get to. We just want to do a quick recap. And then Titan Scout, I see you there. I appreciate you showing up on the halftime show as well. So, I mean, asking about what we do in the speed summary, just want to know. We're going to run through the game and kind of the big plays, and then we'll get into some overall commentary. I appreciate you supporting and showing up on both the halftime show and the post game.
So I'll slow it down a little bit, but just wanted to hit the big plays because we wanted to spend more time talking about some more in-depth stuff after this. So we just wanted to hit what Lebowski's been doing. So I was just trying to copy Sue, but we can do it a little different if everybody'd like to. So after that, Henry back in with a 6-yard gain. 3rd and 4th Titans complete to Corey Davis for his 25th straight catch for a first down. So that's big. He comes up every time he catches it, converts first down or touchdown for the past 25. So that's big to note there. With that play, the first quarter is finally over. It seemed like it took forever. It was like 35, 40 minutes long. It's a long first quarter for this game. Then after that, Tannehill picked off for his first interception of the season on a play action shot to Westbrook, of all people. Harrison Smith with a nice play, but I got to be honest, and JB, let me get your opinion first on this. It seemed to be a bit underthrown in the scene.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was underthrown. I don't really think that's even debatable. I mean, Tannehill, here's the thing. They've been kind of living on this edge where that Tannehill has to play at a level where there's no margin for error. And so that play, he definitely underthrew it. That's completely on Tannehill. I mean, there's definitely – the thing is, whenever you're throwing plays to undrafted free agents, even when you're throwing it to Raymonds or Batsons, you're opening yourself up to some sort of criticism because those are the plays you're targeting. But the problem is that when you're running these play action plays, you're throwing those guys out there to give other guys a break. And you know what they do. They keep these guys on the roster because some of the things that they do are so specific as far as they're not going to have the full playbook in their arsenal. So with a Westbrook guy like that, you're talking about, are they going to throw it deep? And that's the same thing they did with Raymond and when they went with Batson. They're very similar plays. Batson actually is a speedster that does better work doing drag routes, doing plays that are going to be more across the middle where he can get the ball in his hands and make people miss, where Khalif Raymond is going to be that guy that's kind of down the field. Westbrook, we're still waiting to see kind of what his skill set's going to be, because if you look at some of the commentary from the camp, which was very limited, it was very much one of those things that he had drops. He had lots of drops. And so when you see the plays that he dropped, he had 2 targets today where it was going to be something that Harrison Smith picked off one, and he just dropped another one on a quick out route that was about 8-9 yards. And so one of those things where when you target those kind of guys, you're going to open yourself up for whenever you make those few plays. Khalif Raymond was loved on the few targets that he had, but when you don't have the volume, you're opening yourself up to that kind of criticism. And so that's one of those things that they are going to have those kind of questions they have to answer. Hey, why are you targeting the Westbrooks on those deep routes? Why are you targeting the Batsons? But Raymond showed up today after being a no-show for the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, just positive notes there. So after that, Vikings do take over, and first of a lot to come here with Jefferson. 2 completions back-to-back early to get the drive going for the Vikings. They dink and dunk a little bit, but then they hit a big 31-yard gain to Jefferson over the top over Butler. And at this point, I kind of thought Butler seems to be getting abused a little bit. James, did you kind of have the same thought?
Yeah, a lot of it. I mean, even going back to some of the other games, he's just getting beat. I mean, it always seems like he's there, but it's either a really tough catch or just completely open. There's no in between. Yeah,
so you like to see a little bit there, especially with a veteran on a rookie like that. But Jefferson had a little bit of his coming out party today for the Vikings. Didn't expect it. He's a great receiver coming out of LSU, so I guess I shouldn't totally be surprised based on what he was able to do there. Very next play, touchdown to Thielen in the back of the end zone. And this was a nice play by Cousins. And I mentioned in my In the Trenches article this week that he's typically a little more of a stationary target. He can get out of the pocket a little bit. And he can be accurate. But I was expecting a little more contained from that. So he was forced out on the pressure to his right, rolls out and is able to complete a very nice pass to the back of the end zone. Thielen with a diving catch. both feet in, dragged him for about 3 yards. So no question there for 16 yards. So it's just, at this point in time, you're starting to think, well, if the Vikings get rolling, they haven't done this all season, but if they get rolling, they can be dangerous. They've got weapons on offense. And this was that first thing to come there. And JG, I don't know if you're able to respond, but it's kind of disheartening when you see the defense, especially against an offense that's been struggling so much, and to have them click against the defense that the Titans have.
Yeah, and what you saw repeatedly, not just with that Thielen catch, and I'm sure we'll get to it eventually, but the Rudolph catch a bit later, is sometimes the other team is going to make incredible plays. Justin Jefferson going up over Malcolm Butler with like a Randy Moss catch over Butler on that one drive too before the Thielen touchdown. Like, sometimes the other team is going to make really great plays even if you're in good defensive position, and it can be disheartening and, give the other team some momentum there. But I thought, we'll get into it, but I thought the defense did bounce back from those plays. But when another team is just making plays like that, I agree. A defense was already struggling, and here they are, and the other team is just like balling out after they've themselves struggled 2 games in a row, especially last week. Kirk Cousins was horrible last week, and he was hitting receivers on the money today.
So, and just kind of jump in there. So you talk about Kirk Cousins. He's bouncing back. These guys are professionals, especially some that have had some sort of sustained success. So when you look at Tannehill, even what he had at Miami, it wasn't spectacular. But you look at the small sample size, which a lot of the national media will bring up with Tannehill about longevity, and they're going to have a regression this year. So today, I think we saw some of that regression. You saw that he wasn't spectacular. Every single throw was not on point. He threw his first interception that he had on the year. And so when you look at him, it's one of those, he definitely didn't start off with that fast momentum where every single pass was going to be on target. So I see Shazam in our comments from Periscope there talking about how he started off slow, and yet he definitely did find his niche later. I knocked him last week for missing the throw to Adam Humphries. And that's one of those that he had checked to that play on that corner route, and that it's frankly a smash concept. He had checked to that and then missed the throw. He came up big when he needed to. Another guy that came up big, as we'll get to in the full game recap here, is Gostkowski. But it's one of those that whenever you kind of are going to have your number called, you got to be able to step up. So Tannehill did start off slow, but definitely came through. So absolutely, I completely agree with what you're saying.
So having in my notes here, the Titans need to sustain a drive and need a touchdown instead of a field goal on this next drive. Titans take over with 8:56 left in the half. Big run from Henry to start the drive, and you saw those sparks throughout the game of the holes in the defensive line. It seemed like whenever they got a hat on Kendricks, they were able to find some success. So that's good to see there for the offensive line. Henry converts the first down on the very next play. Sambrilo gets beat by Ngakwe for a 3-yard loss. But he converts. Tano comes back after the pressures on the incomplete throws and converts a 13-yard pass to Humphries, which looked like a conversion at first. And I know we need to go through the plays a little bit here, but just want to talk about this. Minnesota challenges and wins to bring it to 4th and inches. It looked like he had it beyond, but just to explain what the refs were saying there was because he, on his own, without anyone touching him, carried that ball back. Apparently, he was then short. Then Henry converts that, so lot to do for nothing. Henry converts at the very next play. Was close there as well. I thought they might try to challenge that. It seems like Zimmer gets he was 6 for 6, I think, or he was a lot there. So it's good to see that Henry convert there. Titans go on down. They get close to the end zone, get a little cute here with an end of the round, a 3-yard loss. You like to see them stick to their guns a little bit there. We'll get some down there. Titans fail to convert again. Vikings forced a field goal attempt. Gostkowski good from 30. And this is just a recurring theme. Vikings take over, march down, and Titans hold Vikings to a field goal. Titans get one last drive before half for themselves, but they have to punt. Vikings run out the half on a 2-play drive, and we finally get to halftime after all of this. So you're thinking about they're coming in, and as you said in the halftime show, is what they're going to do to stymie some of this, and maybe look for not Richard Jefferson. Is not the NBA. I'm sorry, Van Jefferson, and what they can do to slow down
Justin
Jefferson. I'm all over the place with all these Jeffersons. I apologize. Vikings start with the ball coming out in the second half. Jonathan Joseph with a pick 6, or so it seems. Clowney with the blindside block, peeling back. What was your opinion of that call, Justin?
Well, firstly, I mean, the commentator was going on and on about how it was done by Clowney. Like, I'm not sure. It wasn't. I guess the rule is you can't block him going the opposite direction that your guy's going. So it is a penalty. but it wasn't like a super egregious penalty. I mean, it wasn't a super blindside, I thought. At the same time, he probably didn't need to do that. It was a touchdown regardless, so it was disappointing. But the most disappointing thing was, I mean, watching the game, I was like, oh, well, Titans offense has the ball in great position here. This is when they take over and go down and do it. And the most disappointing part was they didn't convert off the turnover.
Yeah, I mean, Titans did not convert off of it, and they should absolutely be critiqued for that. But I think that's one of the definitions of, you want to be in a safer game. You want to be taking care of the players out there, and that absolutely should be. This is one of the consequences of that. And I see Shazam coming in our chat right there, say, right call, stupid rule. I kind of agree with what he's saying there. The sentiment there is it's the right call in what he did, and that's more of the adaptation of what you have to do to today's football. It's the right call, and it's the right rule because of the number of plays that it takes away. And so this is the bad effect. This is the bad impact of that, but the number of plays that it takes away because of that, the number of actual blindside blocks are worth it. So as somebody who covers the Titans kind of thing, it's one of those that, yeah, it's unfortunate if you're a Titans fan, but at the same time, it's absolutely worth what it's in the long run going to be worth.
So as Justin alluded to, the Titans aren't able to do anything. They have to punt after a couple of Tano strip in the pocket, pressure over Sambrio, feeling that Lawan lost a little bit there on that drive as well. Vikings take over, and Cook starts to cook in the run game again, but Titans do battle down, force a field goal attempt, which just to stop here for a second, Hill Smith again looks like he was on sides for the snap. Looks like he jumped it and really got back there for the block. I was excited. I don't think he was off sides, but
Who?
nevertheless, they do call it. Was it Smith?
No, it's Josh Kalu.
Kalu.
It's Kalu. Sorry. Kalu goes back and blocks the field goal. I thought he was on sides again, perfectly legal, but they dinged him for jumping off sides in the neutral zone, and they give him 5 yards. But Dan Bailey misses it anyway, so big stop for the Titans defense there.
Huge and much needed at that time, because if the Vikings end up scoring on that play, things could have gone out of hand.
Yeah, you always talk about the ability to hold serve. I mean, you're going to talk. You talk about whenever you have an offensive possession, it's about getting points. And if you can't get points, then does the other team get points on it? When you watch tennis, they have the exact terms for it. Are you holding serve or are you breaking serve? Football is not that different when it comes to that, because whenever you look at the Vikings that are going to be taking the ball at halftime, them coming out and being able to not give up points, especially in a track meet, it becomes even more important in a track meet where everybody is scoring points. And the Titans end up winning this game, but at the same time, they still gave up 30 once again gave up 30 points. So it's one of those that every single possession, if you can take away points, it's advantageous.
So Titans take over, and the big thing I wanted to touch on here was there was a big completion by Jonnu Smith to start the drive for a 21-yard gain, but Zimmer throws the challenge flag again and does not get it, and it loses a timeout early in the second half. And this turns out to be not. I mean, it was big because he was out of timeouts at the end of the game. They couldn't stop the clock, so we noted that as a big play there. Maybe he was feeling it a little bit. He had such good success challenging those plays, but this one didn't work out for him. Drive styles again. Gostkowski again nails a 51-yard field goal, fourth field goal of the day. He's just on fire at this point in time. He is booting him straight on. They're no doubters when they're getting through. So that's great to see for the Titans moving forward. Vikings then take back over. Play action shot to Justin Jefferson for a 71-yard touchdown. I don't want to put my notes after this one. I don't want to say it out loud what I said, but just the typing I did after this was very, very brutal. You hate to see it. Like James, like you said earlier, just you'd hope that at some point in time they wouldn't lose this guy. On the replay, it looks like Butler just couldn't keep up with him as he was going through there. The Titans corners got worked a little bit today by Jefferson.
So it was actually Jonathan Joseph was in trailing technique there that was behind him. So they threw over the top on him. And then, frankly, the more egregious thing, look, Jonathan Joseph had an overall great game as far as he forced a fumble on a great technique coming up and attacking the pulling tackle earlier in the game. You can make the comment that, Cooks fumbled the football on his own player's helmet, but guess what? That situation only occurs because of Jonathan Joseph's fantastic technique to come up and attack the pulling offensive lineman. So he blows it up right there, forces the fumble. He also gets the interception. This was a blown play. Look, he absolutely got beat by a younger player. The bigger egregious fault there was the Vaccaro unable to prevent a touchdown right there. Like, you have to be protecting. You play the angles. You cannot, under any circumstance, let him cut inside to get the touchdown right there. That is your, in just the bare minimum, what your job is as a safety is to prevent the big plays. So on that, you have to be able to force him to the sideline. Can't let him cut inside and get the touchdown. And he did. And I think Kenny Vaccaro will be the first one to say it.
Yep. So it's 24-12 at this point in time. So Titans need a drive here. They need to convert something. So they do take over. Henry able to get it going a little bit. And on 3rd and goal, touchdown for Henry, dives into the end zone. Big time answer by the Titans to bring it 24-19. And you got to think that they're going to get the running game going here. It looks good there. Jonathan, and so it looks good there. But about Art Smith, some questions in the chat. Jonathan, I know Bama asked a question about Art Smith's play calling today. He went away from the run in our last 2 drives. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those that if you're going to be a team that's based around play action, based around that power run, then you got to be able to commit to it whenever you actually have to. You can't just be, just like when you're playing poker, you can't be that guy that's always bluffing. At some point, you actually have to be able to just pound the football. And so I do think Art got a little cute from time to time today, where it was, the handoff to Khalif Raymond on the sweep, whether it was just whenever they got down, and they should have, when the ball is just rolling, when they're just handing it off to them. They had a couple of sequences where it was not just, cool, they know what's coming, do it anyways. It doesn't matter. And so that's one of those where we need to be able to actually translate that into, doesn't matter, we're going to run it anyways. Justin, what do you like to say?
I just want to comment on those 2 plays. There was the end around to Khalif Raymond early in that game that resulted in a loss in the red zone, and then later they tried something with Adam Humphries where it looked like he was either trying to set up a throw or maybe just reading. Yeah, it looked like it, and he ended up not throwing it. But the Titans also had a few run plays that worked really well because they brought a guy like that in motion across the field and then gave it to Henry up the middle. And without actually it's just exactly almost what you said about at some point you have to commit to it if you can't bluff every time. Well, the same thing, you can't bluff the end around every time if you want it to be effective. So I'm not saying you trade the negative play, and especially not in the red zone. That's a horrible spot for that to occur. But it does keep the defense honest when you do hand it to Henry other times. Now, that doesn't have really much to do with them not pounding it towards the end of the game, but they pounded it towards the end of the game, and then they had a couple incompletions. I mean, when it's 2nd and 10, you're going to keep pounding it. That's when Humphries got 1 yard. I don't know. Maybe they should have handed it off there. But
so that Humphries plays looked like it was supposed to be a pass, but that corner remained disciplined, staying on, I think it was Davis.
Yeah, the Humphries sweep was absolutely 100% correct, where him not throwing the ball. He was definitely on a double pass right there. The safety rolled over the top, and the corner actually stayed with him rather than jumping up on the sweep route or on the sweep motion. So it's one of those that in that situation, I get the idea that you're going for. I get the things that you've shown. But you have to go back to whenever you need to go win a game, what are the things that you're going to fall back on? Look, with it, when you're the Patriots, it's I'm going to throw it to Edelman. I'm going to throw it to Wes Welker kind of thing. You know what you're going to in the end. And so whenever it's with the Titans, it should be handing it off to Derrick Henry, especially when he's starting to run. So I'm wondering if they're getting into this moment where they're almost contradicting themselves, because they are this team where teams are jumping up to take away the run game. But at the same time, their run game's working. Go with the run game. Because they started to really start to pound the ball. Even without Taylor Lewan, they really started to move the ball and get push. You got the guys with Dennis Kelly. You got the guys with Nate Davis. So you're doing work right there. So keep doing work. But I think they're starting to almost get too cute with it.
Yeah. Stick to your guns a little bit. That's kind of what I was meaning earlier about the Raymond end around. But coming back into the game just a little bit, great comment by Shazam in the chat here. Joseph probably is being asked to do a lot more than initially expected. Cornerbacks are a little thin right now. The defense has been a little thin to start the season, so it's kind of tough for me to be. And I said this during the games. I don't want to judge coaching or anything until they have the full complement of their arsenal as far as what they can deploy. And it does look like the corners are a little gassed at times. So not to be too, So moving on, but they did get a big stop here for the Vikings. Jeffrey Simmons again, 2 in a row pressures that really just moved the guards back in the backfield and allowed a lane for Murchison to get a tackle for a loss and to force the Vikings to give it back to the Titans. Titans take over. And this was a huge play again. Play action, I think it was very close to the play earlier in the game. Big completion to Khalif Raymond for a 61-yard gain right after they're able to stop the Vikings.
Yeah, it looked exactly like the play we saw in Week 10 last year against Kansas City. Drop back, the little Yankee route with Khalif Raymond running the post off play action, and Tannehill throws it perfectly down the seam. This is like their we need a spark play, I guess, because it was the spark in Week 10 that they needed, and it was the spark that the offense needed today, and it felt like just like that, holy crap, here come the Titans. They're about to take the lead again, and everything will be fine. Here they go, and that's kind of what we saw.
It's one of those that you talk to. It was pretty much the flipped. It was the same thing, but flipped from the other side. And when you look at, I was watching the SEC game yesterday with Mike Leach, Mississippi State versus LSU, and they talk about they don't do things that are too complicated. They just do it based on repetition and things that are so well executed. And I really think, especially from a defensive coach with Mike Vrabel, you talk about a guy who is just going to show up and do his job. And no matter where you're at, he played snaps on offense, played snaps on special teams, played snaps on defense, obviously, but do your job kind of thing. And so whenever it doesn't have to get super complicated, no matter what it is, you talk about KISS, keep it simple, stupid, but it's going to be one of those. It's not easy. I'm sorry, I'm messing up the saying. I can't remember what it is. It's not, but whatever. It's one of those. She's looking at me right here. Hold me accountable. Call me stupid right here. It's not keep it simple, stupid. Well, I'm stupid right here, so I'm pointing at me. But it's one of those that they're not going to do anything that's overly complicated, but they're going to execute it to perfection. So once again, Khalif may not do a ton of routes there, but it's one of those, the route that he ran there, that Yankee route like you referenced there, is one of those that where he knows what he does. So put your players in position to succeed, and that's what Art did today.
So 2 plays later, Derrick Henry over the top for a big touchdown for the Titans there. Fail on the 2-point conversion. We go into the fourth quarter here. The Vikings take over the ball again. And the drive ends for the Vikings with an acrobatic, very nice catch for Kyle Rudolph in the back of the end zone. And he was able to not only get that 2 steps in, but drag a little bit. It was just a very nice catch. I was impressed to see that. And he seems to have a few of those a season where he just makes that juggling catch in the back of the end, not juggling, sorry, but that tough catch in the back of the end zone where he's able to make that conversion for the touchdown. So the Vikings take the lead again there. But their 2-point conversion also fails.
Yeah.
Real quick, I just need to give a shout out to Titans FR here for holding me accountable here. It's simple, not easy. That's the saying I was looking for. Any other time I would have named it with no problem, but at the same time, Titans FR, major shout out right there. It's simple, not easy. Go ahead, JG.
Oh, I was just gonna say that. We talked about earlier how these guys are making plays, and that was a big catch by Rudolph. It almost looked like Cousins was like, pressure's coming. I'm just gonna throw this away out the back of the end zone. No harm, no foul. And somehow Rudolph, I think that's what Will Compton thought because he kind of stopped playing defense, and Rudolph just said, "I'm gonna snag this bad boy and tap that back foot down in the end zone." Hell of a catch. Mike Miracles tweeted, "One of the best catches you'll ever see." And frankly, when the other team makes plays like that, there's no stopping. You can't stop that. So kudos to them. Great job. But like you said, also failed 2-point conversion. So things kind of evened out.
That's one of those that, just like the Justin Jefferson catch up the sideline on Malcolm Butler, that's one of those that offensive, they're professionals too. They're going to make plays. And that's just one of these, you just chalk it up. And in fact, at one point, I think I saw Vaccaro actually just giving him a high five, like, man, great play. That's all you can do because they're going to make plays. And that's the thing. If he doesn't catch it cleanly with one hand, then it's not a touchdown. But he catches it clean because I actually thought he tipped it to himself at first. I was like, no way that's a touchdown. But he caught it cleanly, no bobble, nothing whatsoever. Touchdown.
Yep, the Titans stay back over. Henry starts to get the rush game going again. I think Bill Odd in our chat said that the running game was humming at this point in time. They were getting 5-6 yards a clip. Nice to see that this late in the game. Hopefully that carries over from week to week there. And then Gostkowski again, 54-yard attempt this time. It just seemed like he kept backing him up and he kept nailing him to bring it to 30-28 here. So now the Vikings are going to take back over, and the Titans need a stop from this defense. Hadn't gotten it much in the second half. The Vikings have been rolling a little bit. You really want to see the defense step up here, and they did. And on the 3rd and 15, this was a bit mind-boggling to me after we just talked about Rudolph making such a great play. They dump it down to him on 3rd and 15 for a 7-yard gain, but then he jumps out of bounds to stop the clock for the Titans, and you just look around going, thank you for that. Appreciate it. So let's save a timeout.
It did, but it also saved the Vikings the final, last ditch 144 remaining in the game effort, because I don't think the Titans needed that time, to be honest.
Oh no, for sure. But in the moment, you're like, okay, you got the lead. The thought is you want to keep the clock running while you have the lead. So Titans take back over again for this last drive. They go down to the 2-minute run. Henry's just running. Davis 7-yard completion from Tannehill. Seems like everything's going. Big Smith from Jonnu Smith early in the drive gets popped, holds onto the ball. So I love to see those kind of plays from him as the tight end one. He really came up big today as well. After a short completion to Humphreys, it's 3rd and 9, incomplete. Pressure again by the Vikings. But again, Gostkowski, 55-yard attempt, nails it big time, 6 for 6 on the day. Given how he started, James, where are you now with Gostkowski?
I'm more forgiving. I think I need to drop the jokes already with giving him some crap in the early part of the season. If anything, I'm just looking back at what was wrong with those shoes and what was preventing him from making those. But 3-game winners, I mean, they made a good signing.
Yep, it hopefully it continues. He seems to be finding his groove now. He's really nailing those. So now that the Vikings take back over, Titans need to stop here, because if the Vikings drive down, they get field goal range. You don't want to see that happen. Titans defense comes up again big. Simmons, the pressure just was all over Cousins, causing forces incompletions. No sacks or anything, but the Vikings are reeling a little bit. Bad snap for the second time of the game, this time by the Vikings. Fumble, big loss, 14-yard loss, no timeouts. Vikings can't stop the clock, and then a big pressure again. Simmons, for this last one, just really comes up big. And then on the 4th and 24, on the very next play, throws the ball up a prayer. I honestly thought Thielen caught it. I thought he caught it when it first happened, because it hit him, it went right down to his chest. And I can't remember who raked it out.
Hooker.
But hand fighting.
Hooker.
Bayard raked it out and kind of tipped it up to Hooker.
And he was able to intercept the pass. Titans kneel down for the win, for the 1-point victory, 31-30. Let me start with you, JG. How satisfied are you? They seem to be the cardiac kids here, and I think you've got it there on the screen. They've won all 3 games by combined 6 points. Opponents are 1-7. It's a little bit of we've talked about, is this a bit of a smokescreen for the Titans? Are they legit 3-0? I mean, they're just finding ways to win. At the end of the season, if you just find ways to win consistently, we'll take it. Sitting here is analyzing them, but at the same time, you'd like to see them start to click like they are. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think that a win is a win, and these aren't the most convincing wins. And there are a lot of problems to sort out, especially in the run fits on defense. I think a lot. I'll have to look at the all-22. This is an educated guess, and I want to give a shout-out to somebody who said it in the chat. I think it was Shazam said, price of covering Thielen, Butler was on an island often. I think that's probably exactly what happened. This defense was working hard to take away Adam Thielen. Thielen was largely held in check. He had that 1 touchdown, but other than that, total on the day, 3 catches, 29 yards on just 5 targets. So they took him away pretty successfully. But when you have a guy like Justin Jefferson on the side of the field, 7 catches, 175 yards, and a touchdown, it's not as much of an accomplishment to take away Thielen when you get worked like that. But there's a lot of guys missing from this team. You're seeing this team work into a groove. It's a lot better to have these issues and know what they are at 3-0, as opposed to a team like the Bills, who were unable to hold out today and let the Rams come back and beat them after they started off 2-0 and didn't look like they had a lot of issues. When you don't have a lot of issues to correct, then you you get tripped up. The Titans will maintain their awareness, but at the end of the season, or over the long haul, I guess, over multiple seasons, typically the close games, games that are decided by 1 possession, are like a 50-50 even out over time. And the fact that the Titans are 3-0 and 3-0 in 1-score games right now, I mean, they got to get out of 1-score games. They got to start winning. Bills won? Oh my God, I didn't see the end of that. That's crazy.
So that's actually one thing to call out here, though, is that the fact that the Bills won and the fact that the Titans managed to pull out a win here, we need to talk about how big of a win that actually is. Like, look, it may not be something that they want it going away, and maybe they end up having to grind out some victories here to get to a certain record. So it's definitely one of those where the fact that they were able to pull a win out when maybe they didn't deserve it is very important going into it, because these are the kind of losses that they went into the last couple of seasons that they were regretting. So it's one of those that You had the Nick Williams drop against Buffalo a couple years ago that came back to bite him. So you can't have those kind of games where you're regretting it late in the season.
Right. And so, yeah, you take the win and you know you have stuff to correct. And I want to comment on a comment here that says, stop saying we got a lot of guys missing. We shouldn't be so dependent on 2 or 3 guys. That's true. You shouldn't be so dependent on 2 or 3 guys. But Adoree Jackson is a big piece of the secondary. And I think that if that's Adoree Jackson on Justin Jefferson and not Malcolm Butler, maybe you don't see a 71-yard touchdown happen. And that's a huge play. So, yeah, it's only one guy missing or whatever. But I'm not into, I guess, it's a big what if. You have no idea what could happen if the guy's back, but it's not just the guys missing. My point is the team is still working into playing together on defense after losing guys like Jarrell Casey and Logan Ryan, who were huge leaders who helped people get things straight, especially in the run game. I think you're really missing Casey and Logan Ryan in that run game. Ryan did a lot of communicating from the slot position, and Casey did a lot of disrupting in there. So until somebody else steps up, you're seeing Rashaan Evans get washed out in the run game way too often. JB, you want to say something?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think coming into this game, we talked about it on the coach's corner, where you talked about how the Patriots, that model was to put your number 1 corner on their number 2 wide receiver, and I think what you saw is the Titans try to do that same sort of model. Let's take away Thielen with putting your safety over the top, double up that number 1 receiver, and take it away with 2 guys, and let your number 1 corner, who I think they still think, at least until the end of this game, was Malcolm Butler, on that number 2 receiver, and he did not have a ton of success in what you saw going against a Justin Jefferson. So I think that's really something that it'll be interesting how they react coming out of this game and how Malcolm Butler is viewed by the coaching staff. And so that's definitely something to kind of monitor, because, Christian Fulton, I've been pretty vocal about the fact that I think he should be playing outside, put Malcolm Butler inside just from athletic ability. Look, when you're not an athletic freak, which Malcolm Butler has never been, and he's been spectacular throughout his career, but that kind of tipping point comes a lot sooner when you're not an athletic freak. When that goes, it goes fast. So all that to say, I think they came up with the plays that they needed to, but there's definitely stuff that they need to correct moving forward. But hey, getting to 3-0 is very big. I know I saw some comments here about the record before the bye. The record they're going into, getting to 3-0, even if they split from here out, going into 4-2 before the bye would be a spectacular result and sets them up big time going into the playoffs.
For sure. So hopefully the Titans can clean up some stuff on defense. I know there's a lot of questions still out there. Is the non-defense coordinator hampering them and all that? James, do you think that not having a defense coordinator is really that big of a deal, or do you think that the players should still be focusing on their scheme?
I don't know. I'm kind of torn, because the way that I'm seeing this defense play right now, my knee-jerk reaction is they should hire a defensive coordinator. How much does that improve? But right now I'm a little more – we're 3-0. Let me kind of wait it out. Let's see what happens, and go from there.
Yeah, and I think that hiring a defensive coordinator may be a good move in the offseason, but doing it right now isn't going to change a whole lot. I don't know if you need, I don't know. We have no idea. Shane Bowen's presumably, according to some reports, was doing the same role he was last year, spotting and helping get calls in, not necessarily getting the call himself, but helping get personnel and the right looks and stuff like that. So if he's still doing that and it's really just Vrabel, and we'll say goodbye to Jonathan Bourne here. I know you got to go take care of some stuff, but thanks for hopping on. Any last words?
I was actually just joking with James a little bit, saying bye, Felicia, because reasons.
What's your percentage at?
No, he's good. We were able to get him the charge he needed. So
right. Never mind.
As far as the big, let's go through just a few big key moments of the game. The big thing for you, JG, let's stick with you on this. I know you put some things in the chat here. What was the big thing or big stat for you in the game?
Well, the Titans, after going 10 of 14 on third down last week, this week we're not so good. 3 of 13 on third down is not going to get it done, and that's why you have 6 Gostkowski field goals, which is great. The Titans were able to move the ball into Vikings territory often, but they couldn't convert those big moments. And I think, the Titans being so good in the red zone and being so good on third down and all that stuff and on small sample sizes is going to balance out in the end. But I think, you didn't really miss A.J. Brown so much last week. This week, you kind of did. Not having him out there on those third downs, not having him out there even on second and longs to help make those third downs more manageable is a huge thing. So we got the news this morning that Brown could miss significant time, way longer than maybe initially reported, is maybe another month or two with this bone bruise not healing as expected. So I don't know how confident I am in the Titans offense to convert third downs against better defenses like the Steelers next week without A.J. Brown.
Well, luckily, the fact that they've set up themselves at 3-0, it gives them kind of a margin for error. You never want to mail something in and say it's going to be a loss. I do think that the Titans can come out and actually still beat the Steelers, but at the same time, you've given yourself by winning these 3 games. Look, if you're 3-1 in your first 4, any team's taking that. No matter what, you're taking that kind of thing. So, get A.J. Brown healthy. Those kind of guys. It's funny watching this entire week. Coming up to the game, it was one of those where the Vikings are without their top corners. That you have this depleted secondary. Well, cool, that's great and all, but the Titans the Titans are without their top wide receiver kind of thing. So it kind of balanced out the way that went, and so it's one of those that moving forward. Absolute kudos to the Titans on their ability to kind of build that up and get that 3-0 start. And now they have not played great. And when you're 3-0, that's what's funny. If they're 0-3, you're sitting there and saying all these things have worked against them. But the fact that you're 3-0, you're saying kudos to them for getting to 3-0 with all of these things working against them and have bought this margin for error. So when it bites them in the next couple of weeks, which I expect it to, look, they're not going 18, 19-0. It's not going to happen. It's just they're not that kind of dominant team, and it's a league that's not built to do that. So kudos to the Titans. The fact that they continue to win these games that they probably shouldn't have. I picked them to lose this game, and they managed to pull out a win. So absolute kudos.
Yeah, and as Shazam pointed out in the chat, you could be like the Atlanta Falcons who found ways to lose 3 games and be 0-3. So which one do you want to take? Yes, there's some things that need to be cleaned up. Yes, you have some people that are out. So it's kind of a perfect storm, but the Titans, are still finding ways to win these games. So not a whole lot of complaints there. James, final thoughts from you on this game versus the Vikings.
It was a hard game to watch. I'd like to see the Titans clean some stuff up going into the next game against the Steelers, and just hope they do better.
Your final thoughts, JB?
Yeah, I think they've definitely, like I talked about last week, they really opened themselves up to the critiques of not having a defensive coordinator. I'm not sure that it's a matter of if they have somebody in the position of defensive coordinator so much as if they had somebody else calling the plays. A lot of the things that you've seen, I don't think have really shown to be an issue because of the specific lack of a defensive coordinator so much as the plays that they've chosen to go with. And the scheme that they've chosen. I think there are questions definitely to be asked, but it's one of those that, again, kudos to being 3-0. They got to move forward. If they can get one of the next few games, then they're in a great spot to be 4-2. If they can split in the next 3 before going into the bye, then it's not one to say they can mail it in kind of thing, because they definitely can. It's the NFL, but based on percentages, they put themselves in a better position than most teams in history. So it's one of those, they've really put themselves in a great position being 3-0. So if you wanted to be a good team, yes, the teams they've beaten are 1-7. They've only been through 3 weeks of the season. So that's obviously going to hamper that sample size. But I think they're a good team. Are they a great team? That remains to be seen.
They have a lot to clean up.
Absolutely.
They definitely have a lot to clean up.
How you want to view that with glass half full, glass half empty is up to you. It really comes down to, do you think they will? If they won't, they'll go on a losing streak, or they'll lose early in the playoffs. If you think that they will, then they're a great team.
Right.
Real quick, just Andrew Frill just joined, asked about Lewan. I just did a quick search on Twitter. I couldn't find anything. It looked like the last thing I could see is 25 minutes ago. They still didn't have an update from there. I'm not sure if anybody knows or not. Justin, if you can find something a little better than I could. I just did a quick search.
I'll comment on that. I mean, I haven't found anything or seen anything, and my comment is we won't. We are not going to know about Lewan. Either he's going to go on IR in the next few days, or he won't. That's the extent of what we're going to find out, because Mike Vrabel doesn't talk about injuries. He doesn't want to put, the reason he doesn't talk about injuries is because of a timetable for recovery. He doesn't ever want a player to have some sort of expectations that he can't meet. So he's really just trying to protect his players by not giving these reports out, whether it's a good or bad thing, whether it's frustrating or not. To us, is irrelevant. I doubt we hear anything about Lewan's injury until he's ready to come back, which, looking at the way he went down, I mean, I'm no doctor of any kind, but I would guess stinger or broken collarbone of some kind. And it's just like the Titans to pick the most general body part and say shoulder. But
I'm pretty sure I thought it was a collarbone, but the fact that he was shaking his leg made me think it was more of a stinger. If I were to guess, and this is complete speculation, absolute speculation, nobody hold me accountable to this, but just watching what I've seen and comparing it to other injuries, I think he's out at least through the bye.
Yeah, so we'll see, but that's going to wrap it up this time. We'll have some notes later on. We'll have some injury reports. Justin does a good job with that throughout the week, so be tuned in to BroadwaySportsMedia.com for that and for all of our other content, reactions from our podcast and everything. Goskowski for MVP, I think is what the whiteboard says behind Justin. But go to BroadwaySportsMedia.com, check out all of our content, look for everything. Steelers coming to town next week. Hopefully the Titans can clean stuff up on defense, get Henry rolling as they got him going roll in this game, and we'll see what happens. Thank you for joining Sunday Night Roundtable in the afternoon. See y'all next time.
all right.
Later.
Good night.